Thank you, Hannah. Welcome, everyone. My name is Latifa Lashimi. I'm based at Creavit in Belgium and part of the STAR IDAZ Secretariat. I will be your moderator for today's session. Thank you all for joining us today for the second session of the STAR IDAZ Innovation Academy. We are delighted to continue the STAR IDAZ webinar series designed to strengthen innovation stewardship within the global animal health research community. Before we start, let's briefly we'll look back at our first webinar held on 19 November with Professor Gary Entrican from the Roslin Institute at the University of Edinburgh. His talk was highlighted the value of STAR IDAZ roadmaps in stimulating collaboration and maximizing the return on investment in animal health research. We received excellent participation and insightful questions from colleagues. Thank you again to everyone who contributed to this start. For today's session, we are very pleased to welcome our second speaker, my colleague Johannes Charlier. Johannes is a veterinary scientist and the founding manager of Creavit, an animal health research and consulting agency dedicated to promoting sustainable animal health solutions through research, innovation, and collaboration. Johannes also serves as coordinator of the STAR IDAZ IRC Secretariat and manager of discount tools, an important decision support tool guiding research and innovation priorities in animal health. Today, Johannes will present the use of discount tools to define target areas with high need for innovation. His presentation will last approximately 40 minutes maximum. And I will present some practical or give some practical information like for the Q&A session will follow the presentation. And I ask you, please type your questions at any time in the Q&A window, and we will address them after the talk. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be published and disseminated through STAR IDAZ channels after the event, so you will be able to rewatch it or share it with colleagues. Thank you again for joining us today. And please, Johannes, the floor is yours. You can share your slides.
Okay. Can you see them?
Yes, I see the slides.
Okay, thank you very much, Latifa, for the introduction. So today I'm happy to talk to you about the Discount Tools database and how it can help researchers, research managers, planners, also industry to target future research and so to promote innovation in areas that are of highest societal relevance. So let's kick off, and I hope I can stay within the sharp time limits that you proposed. So let's take first a very broad angle to things. So Discount Tools is about delivering societal impact. So in a broader sense, achieving planetary health. We are confronted with many challenges today. Our world is changing at an ever-increasing rate, and many challenges are facing, including climate change, biodiversity loss. We have seen the pandemic threats, and now we are even faced with military and security threats. Actually, all of this, there's a link with animal health. So, for instance, today with the new threats, Again, food security, food sovereignty are very high at the agenda. These are shaping research agendas and policies internationally. And in order to shape this policy and research agenda, Discon Tools aims to be a useful resource to see which animal health solutions can contribute most to the challenges we are facing. So what is actually Discon Tools and how can it contribute? It's very simple. It's a database, disease database that currently has information for about 56 diseases. But it's not only about database, there are also some scoring models. For instance, a gap analysis scoring models that scores the availability and the quality of the current available diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines for these diseases. And also a prioritization model, which again compares the impact of different diseases according to a range of criteria. But I will go back into in detail. The database is stakeholder driven, so we improve stakeholder sector organizations in the management and the decision making in the management of Discon Tools. It is open access. It can be used all over the world. And yes, we claim we are flexible, so it's easy to find the information you are looking for. There's a long background. If you actually the history and when it first started goes back to 2007. So we are near to celebrating our 20th anniversary. But actually, it started with the European Technology Platform for Global Animal Health, which is a body that united the different stakeholders in animal health at the EU level. And one of their highest recommendation was that we need the creation of such a database so we can set priorities and we can work on the biggest gaps. In fact, this action plan was followed then by a program to build the database funded by the European Union, and that was done between 2008 to 2013. And after the EU funding, the database has been supported by funders, national funders of different European countries with Animal Health Europe, so the industry's trade organization, providing also input via secretariat support. So it's long-standing, and we're still going on. Whom are the target audiences of Discon Tools? It's various, so it's useful actually for the global animal health community. The first audience it is useful for, it's for let's say research managers, research planners, so people that develop research agendas, both in the public and in the private sector. The second target audience are the researchers. We hope that researchers are using them to focus their research efforts, also to put their research in the bigger picture of why this type of research is needed and what it will bring improvement in the more broader picture. And we also have a lot of use by veterinary students. As I said, it is used both at the public and in the private sector. So also definitely in industry, diagnostic, pharmaceutical industry, it is useful for to see, okay, in which areas can we develop new products, where can products deliver societal impact, and it can be useful also even in market research. So just to say, it's a collaborative effort to build and maintain this database. So there's different levels involved. There is, as I said already, there are the funders. so which is mostly ministries of agriculture or health in a number of European member states. We're always open to accept more funders. So if you in your country is not yet involved, and you would like to contribute, because this is also very relevant to be used in your country, we are very open to host it and to discuss that. Then we have the management board. As I said, these are the different stakeholder organizations, mainly at the European level, going from the medicines industry, diagnostics industry, the farmer organization, veterinary organizations, education, so the veterinary faculties, major research initiatives like Epizone, STAR IDAZ, the European Partnership, the European veterinary specialists, the medicines agency, so the regulator, and also we have European Commission and WOA as observers. But then the most important persons in are the expert groups. So the many people, we have over 400 experts every time we do an update, contributing to the actual information in the database on which we rely. And then the different roles are connected via the Discontools Secretariat, which is where I am working. Just to say, the first focus and also historically of Discontools has been Europe. What are the gaps in Europe? However, more and more we are evolving towards taking a global perspective. And we also see that reflected in the use of the database. So we have usage from all, as you can see, all over the world. In fact, the highest number of users is from the United States. And in the third place, there is China, and then a lot of European countries. In the last year, we had a not bad number of visits, as you can see here, which is not bad for a specialist database. And this remains more or less constant across the years. So now let's have a closer look to how it actually works and how you can find out information and analyze information. So when you go to the website, discontools.eu, basically you have two options. You can choose, do I want to access the information for one specific disease, or do I want to build a specific report with to find specific information, and I can call that up for several diseases. So it's more easy to compare across the diseases. For instance, you have a question, I want to know about what kind of vaccines are available for disease A and disease B. Then you can select those diseases and then immediately compare it. So let's go through the different steps. The first step is to select the diseases that you're interested in. So there, as I said, there is a list of 56 diseases. You can select also, I'm interested in the epidemic diseases, more the endemic diseases, or the zoonotic diseases. There's also additional filters have been added by geographical region or by animal species. So you can filter those out and you select your diseases. The second step then is what kind of information are you looking for? And there's, as you can see, there's 4 types of information. The first one is what we call the disease and product analysis. It's kind of a text information, and we will go deeper into that. Then we have 2 scoring models, the prioritization models, to see the impact of that disease according to various criteria. The gap analysis model, as I said, on the scoring regarding the quality and availability of the control tools. And then we have the scoring criteria, but the scoring criteria is actually the same as the prioritization model, only there is more, the actual meaning of the scoring is provided. Whereas here only the numbers will be shown. here we will say, okay, number 2, if a score number 2, actually the number score 2 stands for this, this criteria. So we have done step 1, which diseases. We have done step 2, which information. Now we need to go to step 3. But the step 3 depends on the choice in step 2. So let's say we first go to look into the prioritization model. So first we want to know more about the impact of the different diseases. Here you can say, okay, I want to know the general impact across all the criteria, or I am just interested in the impact for instance, impact on animal health, or even the sub-criteria, or in the general score for available control tools. Or, for instance, disease knowledge, which is a score from, well, how well do we think we know the disease and how much is known in order to, so that we can also control the disease. Once you have selected the criteria, we create the report. And the report is numbers, but also there is a graph. So the graph is always more interesting. So let's say we have selected now those 5 diseases. So as you can see, these are all parasitic diseases. And you can compare here the score. We can see, for instance, African trypanosomiasis has the highest impact score. And we may also see the sub-criteria. Why is this high score? We see there is a major bottom for disease knowledge. So there are still major issues that we need to understand better on that disease. There's also a big impact on animal health and welfare, a smaller impact regarding the zoonotic impact compared with some other diseases, and also a big impact on wider society. We see there is also an impact on trade for this disease, whereas in some diseases there was no impact on trade. And finally, there is a positive score also for the control tools, meaning we still need better control tools for this disease. And like this, you can play with it a bit and compare diseases one against another, and also select which diseases still need further work. So going deeper on which diseases, the database contains, of course, all 3 types, both the zoonotic diseases, endemic diseases, and epidemic diseases. And this from the One Health perspective. When you prioritize diseases, it's most relevant to compare diseases within one group. As I did before, for instance, only the parasitic diseases you can compare one another, or diseases more like the zoonotic diseases you compare one another, or within the endemic diseases, just because then it is often more useful and meaningful to compare the scores. Also to say, of course, it's just an aid, that it's not the magic bullet, and there are a lot of the priorities will differ for the user. It's just an aid to give you more information on the impact of the disease. Just what I wanted to stress here is that yes, for most of the governments, well, we are focused on the epidemics and the legally controlled diseases, but it is in these controls, there is equally important to the endemic diseases and the zoonotic diseases. And this is just what I wanted to show with this slide here, that even in this study where we did a comparison of the published costs of economic costs, direct costs of the disease, you see that even although the epidemic diseases can have, like here in the FMD outbreak case in the UK, can have a very big impact, but this is at sudden occasions. So there's a time of the outbreak, major cost, of course, and then there can be more quiet years where there's no cost or only the cost of the preventive measures. The endemic diseases or the zoonotic diseases, they can occur every year. And in the end, if we at the end we make the sum, we see that their impact is as high as of the epidemic diseases. So that's why it is very important that we also stay to work on them and not only put our focus on the epidemic diseases, which are more which attract more attention and which look more serious, but on the long term, all diseases can have major impact. So another example of selecting for priority diseases, an exercise we did was, okay, we have the Sustainable Development Goals and towards working towards a better goal now. The end goals are in 2030, so we still have 5 years basically to achieve those goals. What if we look at those criteria in the SDGs that are directly related to animal health and animal disease? For instance, contributions to poverty, zero hunger, clean water, climate action, and so on. So we in the Discount Tools criteria, we selected the criteria that are most relevant to those sustainable development goals, meaning impact on human health, animal health, impact on sustainability, zoonotic impact, and then we applied that across all diseases, and these were the diseases that came out as the highest priority diseases, meaning we can achieve the highest impact if we achieve major improvement on those diseases, being the Henipa viruses, African swine fever, CBPP, contagious bovine pneumonia, peste des ruminants, avian influenza, and Rift Valley fever, just as an example of how you can use that prioritization model. Now, once you have selected the diseases that you are working on or you want to work on or you are looking for information, the next question is, what are the gaps within those diseases? And therefore we go back to the use of the database, and we go back to step 3, where we say, okay, I want to know the gaps regarding control tools or regarding disease details or regarding global challenges. And again, we create a report. Here you get a more detail. So you see there are a lot of items you can select. For instance, this is within the item of disease details. You can see about which species are involved for that disease, what is about the natural course and transmission of the disease, zoonotic potential, and so on. So you can select exactly what you are interested in. And then what you will get is a text document with always in the same format. What we know today versus what we still need to know. What we have today in terms of control tools, the diagnostics, the vaccines that we have, versus the ones that we still need to develop. So just as an example, so diagnostic availability, what are the commercial diagnostics available? It can be a very short statement. Look, there are serological tests, there are no PCR tests, so we don't go into the details of the exact commercial names and products. It's just the general, this is available. If then we also provided the link to list of animal health diagnostics, where actually you can find a very extensive list of all the available commercial diagnostic kits. And then, so that is the first part. What do we have? What do we know? And then is the second part. What do we want to have? What are the gaps? So for instance, in this case, I think this was for leishmaniosis. There is still a general need for more sensitive diagnostics that can detect asymptomatic carriers. And this is so an area that will need further research and development. So just a few examples. with very, let's say, condensed summary. And these are some slides I just also to explain to students. Let's go to one specific disease. We have decided we are working or we want to work on Campylobacter. What are the key bottlenecks? Campylobacter, diagnostics are available, but they are to be used on food samples. So there are no diagnostics to be used in the live animal or in live chicken. Why is that? Because the chicken does not become sick of the infection. It's a commensal, but still it can be useful for surveillance and for control risk mitigation at the farm level. So today, control relies on biosecurity measures, strict biosecurity measures, but there is no vaccine available. And the expert judge this could really make a big difference in the control at farm level. What is the consequence of this lack of control, lack of potential measures at the farm level? Is that it remains a major zoonosis worldwide, is the most frequent zoonosis in the EU, and it continues to have a big economic impact every year. So if we want to approve that, we know now what we need to work on. Similar, another example on the parasite field, helminths. What is a major problem? Escalating resistance. So resistance against the available anti-helminthic products. What is the challenge? There is lack of alternative or complementary tools. For instance, to reduce the selection pressure of resistance, we need more use of vaccines, plant-based control. We need new anthelminthics with a new mode of action, but they are not there. We need to develop them. As a consequence, again, there is a major economic impact every year, and resistance keeps on spreading. Final example where we are working on today. This is not yet, well, there is a chapter published, but we are updating the information. Peste dipterominal. It's considered one of the biggest constraints on livelihoods and sustainability in sub-Saharan Africa and some parts of Asia. The spread of PPR, Peste dipterominal, is mainly due to uncontrolled or even illegal animal movement. There is a lack of cost-effective Endiva vaccines and diagnostics, especially because the disease is mainly occurring in low resource settings. So we need to have very cost-effective vaccines and diagnostics. And there are big needs for coordinated efforts to control disease. What is the consequence of this? Is that there is a global eradication campaign going on, but this can be delayed if we continue to lack these additional tools to control the disease. And what we have also seen is a recent emergence of PPR now also in the EU. So that is about the gaps. Some examples of gaps you can find via the system. What we do also, you can also use it for, let's say, taking more helicopter view and combining all the individual chapters on the individual diseases and then trying to look for the bigger trend. And that is what we try to do in this publication. That's of course already a number of years old, but still many things are relevant. So, for instance, if you look at the diagnostic gaps, we see a lot of similarities between the different diseases and a lot of common themes that come back frequently. And what we see come back is the need in diagnostics, the need for harmonization, the need for validation and reference panels. A lot of work has to be done there. The need for active surveillance instead of the passive surveillance. The need for DIVA tests so to differentiate vaccinated from infected animals. Tests that do more than just say it's positive or it's negative, but tests that say can differentiate the stage of infection. Is the infection being transmissible at this stage? Is it an infective stage? Yes or no? Tests that can give information on the on morbidity, on the impact on production. Always a lot of research is needed to take advantage of the rapid technological advances, in particular the genome sequencing and the precision, the bioinformatic approaches are relevant to mention here. But and also always the challenge to make diagnostic available and usable in resource constrained settings. So as in animal health, in livestock, the cost efficiency is really a key factor. We can often do it, but can we do it in a cost-effective way that the market can adopt? We are taking that analysis now a step further, is by doing another level of analysis, and this has also been submitted for publication. So what we do here, this is for instance for the zoonotic diseases, and we have plotted, here is the diagnostic gap score from the Discount Tools database, and here's the disease priority score. So basically, the higher the score, the higher is the need for new diagnostics according to the expert group, and the higher the disease priority score, the higher is the impact of the disease. So in theory, the most relevant needs will be in this quadrant, where high diagnostic gaps are combined with a high impact of the disease. And indeed, you can see, and this is mainly so for the zoonotic diseases, that there are several high impact diseases where basically there are no commercial or user-friendly diagnostics available. So this is another way of targeting research. Of course, the reason why it's not available can be multiple. One of them, in the case of zoonotic infection, is often that there is not really a market, so the industry will not develop them because the diseases mainly affect the humans, not the animals. So why will the farmer will not pay for that diagnostics, because his animals are not directly affected. Moving further from the diagnostics to the vaccine gaps, of course, the ultimate dream always is to develop a convenient single-shot vaccine with long-lasting immunity. There's also frequent reference to the need to develop animal-free models, so to evaluate efficacy and identify correlates of protections without the need of using laboratory animals. And always a remaining very high need to better understand immunity and immune responses. That stays very high on the agenda. Again, taking that further, there was a recent last year a workshop also organized by STAR IDAZ on bacterial vaccine gaps. So again, we used the database to go deeper, and these are the bacterial diseases listed in the database, and then to see what are actually the gaps. We see that most of these diseases, some sort of vaccine are available, but often they are not used a lot, and they are not yet very efficacious. Just as an example, again, brucellosis, there's a major initiative going on now to develop new vaccines. There's also been a recent STAR IDAZ workshop on brucellosis vaccine, and I advise you to look out for that report, which will appear in the future on the STAR IDAZ website. But so basically, there are live and attenuated vaccines available for ruminants, but they are not very efficacious. They don't have the DIVA capacity. They are not very stable. They have side effects, and there are no tests for other species than ruminants, while brucellosis affects a wide range of livestock and wild animals. Another example, same for Chlamydia abortus. Again, there are some vaccines available, live and inactivated. Again, they are not very efficacious. There are no DIVA capacity, so we need safer, more stable, and more modern vaccines according to the new vaccine technologies. Finally, I conclude here with the therapeutic gaps. And very simple, I will not go in detail because I see already I'm close to my time. But to say therapeutic gaps was summarized as the main challenge is antimicrobial and antiparasitic resistance. So this translates into needs for more antimicrobial stewardship, development of alternatives, better understanding of the human-animal transmission mechanisms. And also in the parasite fields, which has similarities, but also a lot of differences and specificities with antibiotic resistance, there are clear needs for more integrated control approaches, development of alternatives, as I said before, vaccines, nutraceutical approaches, and also to better understand exactly how resistance emerge and what are the exact genes and mechanisms involved in the development of resistance. So, I hope I could convince you that it is a useful resource, and I hope you will consider the use of it in the future. It's free to use anyway. But also I want to do a call to you to consider there's always possibility to contribute. How can you contribute? Well, first of all, I would say if you use the database in a paper, in a project proposal, in whatever document, please try to mention it. It's of course important to show our relevance and to show our impact. And you can always let us know or provide a testimony. We are very grateful for that. Second, if you can always consider to contribute in one of the expert groups. For instance, in the near future, we are looking still for experts for these diseases, like African horse sickness, anthrax, PRRS in pigs, sheep and goat pox, small ruminant lentiviruses, leptospira, and also we have started to include fish diseases in the database. So also there, if you would like to contribute, you can always contact us. And finally, if you have some money spare, let's say, you can always become a funder to further the sustainability of the database. And you can contact us. We have now 9 funders organization, and it's with a relative small annual contribution that you can support the longevity of the database. So to conclude, what is DisconTools? Database containing information for over 50 important diseases of livestock and zoonosis. We have a wide variety of users, including research policy officers, researchers, industry, students. It can help you to target your innovation strategy and your research applications to widely agreed needs by also all the stakeholders, the EU stakeholders, as they are involved and adopt the documents. And just as an example, recently EMA published their annual report showing that 7 new innovative veterinary medicines were authorized that addressed a gap as identified in DisconTools. So we believe we make a useful contribution to that. I would like to conclude with a number of testimonials from the EU partnership, where we are closely connected, just showing of various projects where they used DISCON tools in order for instance, selection of diseases and also selection of their research area. With that, I would like to thank the funders, the current funders of DISCON tools, and thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Johannes, for keeping perfectly to time, and for your clear and insightful presentation on DISCON tools, which is a database or a platform that identifies research gaps for animal diseases and priorities, where better diagnostics, vaccines, and treatments are most needed. I think through your presentation, we understand that DISCON tools outputs guide funders, policymakers, researchers, and industry to focus investment on the most impactful areas for animal health. We will now open the Q&A session. Let's see if we have any questions. Yes, I see a question from Parahul. Parhul says, thank you for the very informative presentation. Thank you so much. I noticed that aquaculture disease were not included in the diagnostic gap examples you showed. Given the rapid growth of aquaculture and the importance of AMR and One Health, are there plans to extend DISCON tools to systematically assess diagnostic gaps for major aquatic animal diseases? That's the first part of the question. If so, how do you see aquaculture being integrated into the current prioritization framework? Let's take this question, Johannes. It's very nice and great question.
Yes, it's a very relevant question, and indeed, as I briefly touched upon it, this need has been recognized in the board by the stakeholders, and we are trying to work on that. So, to be more concrete, we have now the first aquatic disease, which was a salmon disease, has been integrated into the database. But of course, so historically, there was indeed only a focus on terrestrial animal diseases. The need has been recognized. We are working on that. We have a first case, the infectious salmon anemia. This has shown that the usefulness of our platform indeed to integrate the aquatic diseases. However, so far we have only one disease because our platform is disease specific. So we are looking for additional diseases. So if, of course, there's many more. I mean, the aquatic world is as big as the terrestrial world. So it's a real challenge, but we are working on that. If you have concrete examples, ideas, please contact us. Our connections in the aquatic world are not as big as they are in the terrestrial world. So also there to find the relevant people, the relevant experts, we need more contacts, but we are definitely working on that. I can also refer, or you may do, Latifa. So there's been a recent initiative also in STAR IDAZ together with WOA to work specifically on aquatic research needs, and there is already a report out, so you may also check out that. And this takes more a global perspective on the overall needs. But if it is about going to specific diseases, yes, we have shown that DISCON tools is a useful platform, and we are open to include more diseases in the future. So if you have suggestions on that, please contact us.
Okay, thank you very much, Johannes, for the explanation. I think that addresses the main point of the question. Let's take another question if there are any in the Q&A window. I already see a question from Caroline Supré. How are diseases selected to be added to the database? And what if there are comments on the current data in the database? Before we respond to the question, I should mention I will put the link to the STAR IDAZ website for the question on aquaculture to consult the report there and see the all initiatives that contribute to the aquaculture report in STAR IDAZ. Thank you. The floor is yours for Caroline. Question, Johannes.
Yes. So I remember only the first part, which was about how diseases are selected. So it also it can even complement the first question. For instance, if you see, oh, my disease is not included there, and it's also an important disease. Probably it is when you are working on specific disease. Basically, there is a form that you can fill to make a one-page case why this disease is important, what is the impact of the disease, and this will then be evaluated by the board. And it's not a matter that we don't, and then a decision will be taken. Yes, we will work on the disease, or no, it will not be concluded. And there a balance has to be struck because we have to work with limited resources, and we cannot incorporate every disease. So therefore, we need to focus. Can also be that diseases that are there now, if they lose in relevance, well, they will no longer be updated. As you will see, then the information will stay, but you can see that it has been a long time. There's always the date of last update. Then there are no reason we don't put extra efforts into that anymore. But yes, like for instance, the salmon anemia has been done like that. There are other diseases. We are working now on colibacillosis in pigs, just as an example, that have been included via this way. So there's to summarize, there's a one-pager to complete as an expert, and this information will be evaluated by the board, and then a decision will be taken. Shall we include this disease in the future, yes or no?
Thanks, Johannes. The second part of Caroline's question, what if there are comments on the already available information or data in the database?
Yes. In the long time ago, there was the possibility to the idea was kind of a Wikipedia, and you could type your comment into the platform and everybody could see it. So then it's kind of a living document. But that proved not to work very well because also a lot of flaw comments. So it needs a lot of moderation, and there are no resources to manage that. Of course, comments can always be done. What we will do then is refer that comment to the expert group. So then they can consider, okay, is there need for an urgent update for that information? And then we will implement it ad hoc. But otherwise, the general aim is to update all the information more or less every 5 years. So every 5 years, a new expert group will re-evaluate the available information and see if updates are needed.
Okay, let's have a look if there are any other questions. We don't have questions yet. Again, please feel free. We still have some 5 minutes or 7 minutes for other questions. Feel free to tap them on the Q&A window. Since we don't have questions yet, I'll ask you my own question, Johannes. As we know, discount tools works through expert evaluation structure that they may make a structured gap analysis and a scoring system that ranks disease based on impact and research and innovation and needs. Um, Focusing on gap analysis on diagnostics, therapeutics, vaccines. But what about epidemiological information? Is that available within the database or not?
Yes, thank you for the question. It is available to some extent, but just to be clear, of course, we are not the platform to check for the most up-to-date epidemiological information and like if there is a new outbreak of African swine fever or PPR, then exactly today, where is the new frontier of where or the zone where the disease is. For that, we are too slow. So as I said, we only update every 5 years, but it will contain general epidemiological information on, okay, indeed, where does this, is it this disease occur? Is it of global relevance or are there hotspots? Also, if there are, for instance, just as an example, in the new update on PPR we are working on for the moment, PPR has since 2 years emerged in Europe. So then again, there will be a history of where it has been present and detected in Europe and like where it is spreading. But this is of course not the most detailed and epidemiological information, but definitely there are general disease details and epidemiological information that are definitely relevant. But for the up-to-date, there are other platforms better suited, like EFSA or other websites available for that.
Okay, thank you. Very clear, I hope, for everyone. So a simple question, Johannes, that may be already explained with the previous questions, but not sure. Can we add new diseases to the database?
Yes, it can, but I think I've addressed that before.
Yeah, but just
So
to make it more clear.
it is possible, but it will have to go through an evaluation phase just to see. There is also the idea to focus on the more on the bigger issues as we are working to. To make optimal use of available resources. The idea is also to prioritize on the most impactful things. So therefore, there is not the ambition and the resources do not allow to include every disease in the platform.
Thank you. Makes sense. No further question. Do you have anything to add, Johannes, to the discussion?
No, just please all take time to once have a look and come back to us with any further questions or ideas you may have.
Thank you. Okay, then I think we are already reaching the end of our time, so we'll wrap up here. We'll make sure that we are on time. Thank you all for your active participation and for those questions. We hope today's session provided valuable insights into how these contours can support the decision-making bodies and help identifying priority areas for research and innovation in animal health. A warm thank you to my colleague Hannah, who is supporting us in the background and ensuring everything runs smoothly. And as a kind reminder that the recording of the webinar will be made available and disseminated through STAR IDAZ channels. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues who may benefit from today's discussion and presentation and information. We also warmly invite you to join us for the next session of the Innovation Academy, which will take place on 17 December, featuring our third speaker, Sven Arnold from Provax and Ghent University. Thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Bye.